Hello, my name is Enda, and I am an accessibility advisor with the Cross River Rail project. Today we will be talking about inclusive design to celebrate the National Week of Deaf People, which runs from Monday the 19th to the 25th of September. And with me today is Auslan interpreter Olivia. So inclusive design, what is it? Inclusive design is about engaging authentically with diverse people throughout the design process to ensure products and services not only comply with relevant legislation, but are functional for a broad variety of end users. So when we begun the process of looking at accessibility for the Cross River Rail project, we first had to consider the contractual and legislative requirements for the project. And what was important as well is to look at some of the lessons learned from previous projects that were involved in transport around Southeast Queensland. What do we want to achieve for accessibility across River Rail? Well, as part of our accessibility action plan, we want to define our purpose and set goals. And part of that is made up of 4 pillars. Building stations and systems for all. Every customer's experience is enhanced, that the system is integrated and connected into the network, and that we're working together collaboratively. Overall, delivering infrastructure everybody can use. So who do we engage? Well, it's really important for the Cross River Rail accessibility team to work with people with lived experience, and to work with disability organizations and independent representatives who experience public transport and have been involved in similar projects previously and are public transport customers. And we are really grateful to the partners that have so far committed to the Cross River Rail. So just to give an example of who we engage, organizations include Vision Australia, Braille House, Spinal Life Australia, Better Hearing Australia, DevConnect, Guide Dogs, MS Queensland, to name a few. So how do we engage? Well, when we began, we had some guiding principles. And this was about open and supportive dialogue, transparency, but acknowledging constraints and outcomes in relation to station buildings, and sharing knowledge between technical experts and lived experience experts, and that we're all equal in the process in terms of discussing and planning for stations. So even during COVID, it was important for us to continue with our accessibility reference group meetings on a monthly basis. And we would also have deep dive sessions where we would specifically deal with elements within stations and around operations and infrastructure. The tools and practice and techniques we used working with the group was to make our process as accessible to members as possible. So we would use Auslan interpreters, captioning, as well as having a variety of formats, including visual and tactile, to make sure that members could understand designs as we proceed. As well as formal meetings, we also organize site visits with members, prototypes, and looking at mock-ups on-site and out of site. And we also provide accessible materials in a variety of ways, audible, visual, and tactile. And we at all times want to consider the requirements of our participants and our members when we run meetings and are on site. To just look at an example of some of the Cross River Rail accessibility engagement, we partner with local suppliers such as Braille House to help produce tactile resources like maps and 3D models, some of which you can find at our experience center in the city near the Cross River Rail office. These tools were used to support the station community consultation, ensuring all members of the community were included throughout the engagement process and their feedback was heard. Another exciting piece of work that we were involved in was looking at train access. and prototyping around gap fillers at stations. What I mean by this is the gap between a platform and a train. The contractor in Dutton Park to Salisbury line, delivering the above-ground accessible upgrades, created a platform gap prototype where we were able to test rubber gap filler solution with accessible reference group. The rubber gap filler solution was a solution that was strongly supported by participants and is now installed at Yeronga Station and is being rolled out across the Dutton Park to Salisbury stations. So keep an eye on those as you travel through those stations. Throughout our work with the Accessibility Reference Group, we've received nearly 300 pieces of feedback. And it's important for us in terms of transparency across River Rail and our commitment to our members to close the loop in terms of the feedback they've received so that they find out what's been the outcome of the work that they've put in so far on the reference group. So through our Accessibility Reference Group meetings and through one-on-ones, we are providing the outcomes of that feedback, what has been put in station design and some of the challenges in terms of what still needs to be worked upon. And we will continue that work throughout the project. But that's been really valuable and for future projects will help in terms of design. Early on, we did a site visit out to Yeronga Police Station with Petra from DevConnect and Caroline from Better Hearing Australia to figure out how we could improve station design for people with low or no hearing. During the visit, some issues with emergency communications were raised. It was important to the members that a deaf person using the lift could know that their call for help using the help phone was being answered by the control center operator. In response to the feedback, we worked closely with the lift contractor to incorporate 2 visual indicators in the lift button control panel. A yellow light which illuminates when the call button is pressed and a green light that illuminates when the call has been answered. We hope that this small change will help to improve communications for all people, but particularly to give people with low or no hearing some peace of mind that their call has been answered and help is on the way during an emergency. Cross River Rail is continuing to work with our stakeholders as the project progresses. Today we are excited to announce that we will be launching new Auslan translated pages on our Cross River Rail website. To make sure you head over to the website to check them out. I would like to introduce a valuable member of our Accessible Reference Group, Petra from DevConnect, who will talk about her work with DevConnect and as a member of Cross River Rail Accessible Reference Group. Thank you.
I acknowledge our deaf community, our deaf leaders from the past, present and emerging. My name is Petra and this is my sign name. At DevConnect, we stand for the deaf community to build capacity, influence social change, and we respect our history, culture, and language. I've worked for DevConnect for 15 years. DevConnect provide opportunities for many deaf people to access our organisation. We empower the deaf, hard of hearing and deaf-blind communities. As a deaf person, my native language is Auslan, which is Australian Sign Language. And I can communicate with lots of different people using sign language. DevConnect have worked closely with the Cross River Rail project to ensure that updates and improvements for the future for accessibility are possible for the deaf, hard of hearing, and the deafblind communities. I'm a regular participant in the Cross River Rail meetings once a month, and I've also visited various sites. I've worked closely with the projects team to ensure that I give my lived experience about access and talk about different improvements that we can make. I have provided feedback about station design, and I have seen some great improvements being made so far and look forward to more in the future. So I've been working collaboratively with the projects team. I've talked on my experience of accessibility. I've provided feedback on station and train improvements, and I have seen those start to be rolled out. I've also provided best advice on how to communicate with our community. And what I learn from these meetings about the Cross River Rail project, I feed back to my community. Part of partnering with Cross River Rail on the project is to help spread awareness of the deaf, deafblind and hard of hearing communities. And that's why I'm here in support of the National Week of Deaf People. Deafness can sometimes be an invisible disability. Maybe you're sitting on the train next to a deaf person and you wouldn't even know it. But we are here. When people working on big projects like engineers, architects, and project managers become aware of the differing accessibility needs required to make improvements to the station and the train designs, it makes it accessible for all people. And that's why DevConnect have liked partnering with Cross River Rail throughout this project. Thanks for watching. If you'd like some more information on DevConnect, you can visit their website.